Go. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. We had a bit of a stuttering start this morning, man. But welcome to Man Up
Yeah,
Conversations. My name is Kaukelo Haviati, and I'm with my guy, man. Delilo, what's happening?
nothing much. Hey, nothing much. But I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Nah, I'm glad you're good, man. The reason for this session really is to touch base with an episode that we did recently with Delile. If you don't know who Delile Nduma is, he is the author of this very special. Should we call it special? Maybe we'll find another word for it, but I call it special because it's really just a fine way of speaking around bipolar mood disorder. Delilian Duma is the author of Raw Feelings. This is a collection of poems, right? That Delilia wrote throughout his journey with bipolar mood disorder. But I think even before or even after finding out, you'll find stories in here that speak about family, stories in here that speak about friendship, stories in here that speak about just heartbreak, man, and pain. As you can see, raw feelings, right? And we did this in a recent conversation on the podcast that hasn't been shared in video format, which is why we are doing a few of these sessions here just to kind of encourage some interaction. But before we get too wrapped up into all of that, I want to bring my brother Delile into the fold and just I think one question that I didn't ask you from this book is what has the reception been just from people when you share with them, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reception has been quite well. It quite good in a fact that about 60 something books have been sold so
Wow.
far. Yeah, I think I was 63 if I'm not mistaken. So friends and family, colleagues as well, they supported me, and then I also did sort of like a book reading session at work with a few of my colleagues. So they were kind of like blown away. Also, like, wow, we didn't know that you write such beautiful poetry, and it's so well understood. It's simple to get into it. You don't have to think too much. It's not like riddles and metaphors, you know. But the
Yeah.
points are there. Yes. You get to see the point, and then it's quickly sparks up that emotion and that conversation as well. So a
Mm.
lot of people, the ones that have bought the book and also have read it, they've put in some positive feedback about the book to say they really like it. Now and again, they get to read one of the poems, and it lifts them up. Some of the things they have to also think deeply about is like, wow, we didn't know this about you, you
Sure.
know. So
Sure.
yeah, that's a kind of a revealer of some facets of my life as well. People that don't know who I am, they get to know it through the book. So yeah, the
Yes,
reception has
sir.
been quite well.
I love it, man. And Delila, the other thing that I saw in this book that you actually mentioned that triggered your bipolar was the passing of your father, or maybe not even the passing of your father, just not being able to grieve him, right? And I think a question that I should have asked in that conversation, but because I suppose, just yeah, the emotions were just so intense, and I could see from you I wanted to go with just what was coming up for me at the moment. But the one thing is, you obviously a man, and the relationship with your father must have been very important for you to go through what you experienced when he passed on. So I don't know if you're able to share just how your relationship with your father was, and how that impacts on your idea of fatherhood. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that I had with my father because when I grew up, when I was young, I used to look up to him. You know, as boys,
Mm.
we look up to our fathers. They're kind of like our heroes. We run to
Sure.
them when we have problems. We used to play marbles together. That's like an interesting thing. We used to play marbles together. He'd make up that wire type of car that you drive when you're in the townships, running around with your friends. So it was a nice relationship as we grew up. But then as I got older and I got to understand some of the things that he had done and how he had abused my mother and all of that, so I kind of like started hating him. But also at the
Sure.
same time, I had this love-hate relationship with him because with my own experience, I've never all of those things. Just that I had them from my brother, I had them from my mother. that hey, this guy when he's drunk is acting this way, but I never really witnessed the physical abuse, right? But it was other things when parents were fighting, the shouting and all of that in the house, kind of like, oh, maybe this is true, So maybe my brothers were saying the truth about him, that hey, this guy like this, he's only good when he's sober. I think a lot of people can relate to fathers like that, right?
Sure,
But it did
sure.
change the dynamic because deep down I still love him. So
Mm,
now I think the biggest thing was that I hated him during the time that I was a young adult, so to say, and then through the time that he passed. But then because I had that deep love buried underneath, it,
mm,
it made it a bit of a complex situation for me to grieve. That's why I
sure.
think I buried emotions. And I think that also at the same time taught me to be a different person. I think coming to the fatherhood part, to say I don't want to be like him. I don't want my kids to think of me as a monster. I don't want them to think that I was the person who was abusing their mother.
Yeah,
The best
yeah,
gift that I can give to them is to love my wife, is to be there so that they can see that love and then they'll be able to look up to me. So that's how it kind of like changed to say everything that he has done or that I've heard about him, I don't want to be there. So I want to change the narrative. I want to be a good person so that at least others can follow up on the footsteps that I put on instead of the ones that he had left behind. Eh?
yeah, yeah. And I appreciate you for sharing that, man, because I did hear a bit about the abusive history, and living in our country, that's something that we always want to highlight. And I think I purposely in our conversation chose to highlight a side that you could speak more to, which is the support that you received from your mother, and obviously her getting you to go to the right can I say practitioner to help you with what you needed at the time. So again, for the people who've joined us, I see we got a few. We got someone saying Orlando is in the building. I think they can see the Buccaneers here representing. So thank you for tuning in. But yeah, we basically recapping our episode with Delile Ndumo, where we're speaking about his book Raw Feelings, and Raw Feelings basically inspired the conversation around, well, how do we manage bipolar mood disorder through poetry, right? Maybe not just poetry, but through other creative means that we don't always necessarily think of as things that could assist us in healing, right? Or at least getting to managing whatever illnesses that we are dealing with, or whatever, can I call it, disorders that we are dealing with. So Delile here just shared basically how his relationship with his father, which was the catalyst, or should we say the trigger to his bipolar mood disorder, and eventually in 2009, right? And then
Yeah,
eventually in 2012 is when Delile received help. So we just recapping that story and sharing a bit of um, some of the stuff that we didn't really touch on in the episode itself. So you're getting sort of a two episode conversation if you want, and you can always go back to the audio side. By the way, I'll share that in the chat, so you can check out the Manned Up Conversations either on Spotify, either on Apple Podcasts, or any other audio platform that you prefer to listen to. Obviously, also check us out on here on YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel. We're not going to be doing a lot of video content of the actual podcast, but we'll give you a lot more in terms of feedback. What maybe you guys heard from the podcast. What are you guys taking away? If you've read the book, maybe there's some questions that you want to ask yourself. Delila is here, but also some of the future guests will also be here. So thank you so much for joining in. Um, but Delila, back to our conversation, bro. Sorry for the promo
it's
there.
okay.
um, but I was really intrigued by this book, like I kept on saying. And one of the things again is just seeing how your family life is somewhat of a grounding space for you. You know, your wife is such a lovely person. I remember when I was there, I didn't even drink my juice. She was like, "Oh man, I wish we had food. I wish we our fatally juice here how." There's just an encouragement when you're in there. There's just a unity when you're in there. And I wonder for couples who are watching this who maybe might not know how to support their person who might be experiencing any other disorders? You know, what are the some of the things? And I know we spoke a little bit about this in the actual episode, but I see we've got people here that might want to hear it. So, what are some of the things that you would say the easier things that we could do at home to support each other, even if maybe we are unaware, right, of each other's disorders? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I
Mm,
think one thing I've appreciated about the dynamics that I have with my wife is that she kind of like knows when to give me space and knows when to be there. I think it builds over time because you don't instantly know those things when you're in a relationship. You know?
mm,
It's through long conversations that you have to have with your partner, explaining exactly what ticks you off and what you don't like and what are your likes as well, and what makes you go through certain emotions or certain experiences in a different way. So I think some of the things that they can do is just to be patient. I
mm.
think it's much more patient than the normal patience that people would extend to a person. You know, sometimes you give up, you get tired. It's like I've been patient enough, eh?
Mm,
But extending that type of patience also brings some good results because when we bloom, when we come out of that space, when you come out of the depressive mode, it's a beautiful thing to see. When we
mm.
are there interacting with the family, with the kids, and then also showing the love, it's something that they appreciate the most, even the caregivers. It's not just maybe having a wife or maybe a partner, whatever the case may be. Even the
Wow.
caregivers, when they see the gratitude that you show for them being there for you,
Mm,
it's something that you can actually see them crying, tears coming down their face, being
wow.
so appreciative of the gratitude that you give. Yes. So be patience, I think, rules one. And then two is being non-judgmental. So sometimes as people living with mental health illnesses, we may ramble a lot. We may talk about things that don't make sense. Sometimes they only make sense to you alone, you know.
Mm,
But being there or just having someone to listen to you in a way that they won't judge you because of what you are saying is also something that puts you at ease. It's sort of like having a psychologist as your
mm,
friend also at the same time. So
mm.
you're having a best of both of someone who knows you, but also at the same time gives you the space to express yourself. You know,
Wow.
so that's another thing that I also mentioned to say, be there for the people who are living with a mental health illness.
Mm,
No matter how it may look as insignificant as it may be, but being there also really counts for them. So patience, and then just giving them a listening ear.
sure.
It's something that goes a long way. It goes a long way.
Yes, man. And now, what about the
Yeah.
kids now? So when it comes to the boys now, let's say because you speak about being in your disorder being seasonal, right? Um,
Sure.
right now we're in a high season now. So
When high
how
season,
do
I think
we?
that
You know what I mean? So how do we then speak to them to help them understand that well, dad is now in a high season, but now there will be a time when the low season hits, and now dad maybe might not respond to you the same. Then how does that conversation shape up for those boys?
because they're young, it's not as easy as yeah, they're quite young. I think the other one is four, the other one is see. They can see when the moods
Yeah,
change. So I think kids are quite in tune with emotions very much that they can sense when something is not
sure.
right. Uh, so the thing that my wife does is to explain to them that dad is not feeling okay.
Mm,
Dad is not well today. So you just need to give dad some time, let dad sleep or be alone.
mm,
But when it's a high season type of things, like dad is happy, he's always gonna be here for you. You can go outside and play, you can go to the park. So they kind of
nice.
like get to understand that there is that high note of life
Mm,
into the positive or into the manic side of things. And then there's also the low when it's a bit dull and dark, whereby I
mm,
just need to be alone and then feel sad or whatever the case
mm.
may be. And then also reciprocate that information to say, oh, is Daddy feeling sad today? I was like,
Sure.
yeah, Daddy. They'll come to me and hug me and they'll tell me how much they love me. We
Sure.
love you, Daddy. Yeah, we miss you, you know. So I think those are the things, the conversations that we can also inculcate into the kids at a young age as well, to say, just explain to them the little emotions that they understand: happy, sad, not feeling okay, okay, maybe because sometimes they even ask, oh, dad is not feeling okay, do you have to go to the doctor? You know, they
Mm.
think that basically you are sick in terms of a physical ailment that needs to be seen by a doctor. So those are the things that they can identify with. So at least if you try and give them something that they can understand, it will also help them understand the emotions that come through in those seasons, or depending on the illness, those days as
Sure,
well.
sure.
Yeah.
Now they do that. I also love that there's a poem that you wrote in here about your surname, right?
So
If I'm being, yeah, it is your surname, right? But
then
I have this fascination with names and naming. I always believe that a name is more than just a bunch of words, a bunch of letters that you are given by a parent or whoever, right? There's a lot of destiny to a name. There's a lot of, can I say, sort of a path that's created for you when you are given a certain name. So, for example, my name is Kaukelo. And Kaukelo, when I asked my mother, well, why did you name me that? She said to me, well, it was God's mercy on my life. Right. And I thought, okay, that's
yeah,
quite deep. That's quite profound. Right. And then I thought, well, okay, that's good. So I also have my own understanding of what Khawkhelo is. And for me, it's grace, right? But it's the grace of the Lord as well. So there is a lot of, as you know, we are Roman Catholic, so you can hear the language is very sort of biblical or almost Catholicism in a way. um, and beyond just the name itself, I also then look at the work I do, right? I look at how I interact with people. I look at how I respond to people who are in pain or people who are in a good time of their life, right? And just those
yeah,
very small nuances that really sort of make me link up to that name. Do I actually live up to what Khawkhelo is? We have people, for example, someone is Tebo, you know, but they're the total opposite of that name. And I always think to myself, man, if that person just took a moment to just think about their name and what it means, could that maybe adjust their direction in life? So I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at here.
I
But
understand you quite
I
clearly.
look
Yeah.
at, yeah, and when I saw that you wrote about your surname, I thought, well, there must be a link somehow there. So could you, yeah, maybe give us a little bit, if you did speak about what your name is, if you did find out, and do you feel like you are living up to that? And plus, you have some boys. What was the thinking? Yeah, yeah, going to
Right.
name those boys. Yeah,
Yeah, no. For me, I do believe that names have some significance. They're not just given just because. I know there are people who are given names that don't mean much, like
sure.
Sam. I don't know what Sam means. Anyway, yeah, but to an extent, I feel like they do have some meaning, because mine, Delile. I asked also my mother, how did I get to be named Delile?
Yeah, yeah,
And for me, it was two sides to a story, because I'm the last of 4 boys, right? So we only have my parents only have son, and then I'm the last one, and I was like, okay, fine. Delile means sacrifice. How did you then sacrifice? Like, what did you really sacrifice here? What happened? And my mother was like, so we wanted a girl. We've been wanting a girl for some time. And then when we got to you, we were like, this is the last of it. So we are done. We're not gonna
yeah.
plan any kids afterwards. So we are sacrificing girls for you. So you are then Delile. And then when I look at my life, just as you're saying, when I look at my life, I never really saw that significance into it, to say what sacrifice really means. But I've lived a life of sacrifice. I've
Mm.
sacrificed a lot in my life, that I've realized that I actually am living up to my name, right? I've sacrificed the relationships that I had with friends and family to be there for my wife. I've sacrificed school to be there for others as well. So I felt like pretty much now and again I'm sacrificing something for someone else. And also for the kids, as well, sometimes you have to kind of like sacrifice certain things. You forgo certain things that you would have loved to do, but you're thinking, hey, I have to be here for my kids. They need me more. So let me forgo those things. So like I feel like I've been living that life of sacrifice, although
Mm,
not seeing it all throughout until I reflect and look at it and it's like, wow, I'm actually living up to living sacrifice, so to say. And that's the
mm,
Lily. That's my name. And then when I wrote the poem about the surname, I was also trying to research as to as the four of us, as the pact, right? What are we known for? What do we stand out for? And you'll
mm,
see that it talks about more about us being sort of like a tight knit family, talking about how blood is thicker than water, so to say, talking about the relationships and also the way we carry ourselves means more about just the surname itself. It means
mm,
us as a whole, as a family, like as this tight, small knit family that we are. So I think it's the same thing that I was trying to put across to say some of these things are significant to people. So if you look into your name, if you look into your surname, what do you see that identifies with you? Because those are the things that can also help you to figure
mm.
out who you are in person, you know? So that's why I feel like there's a significance into the names. Yeah.
I love that, man. I love that, man. And it's a beautiful way. I spoke to some. I was at a session with some fathers just last week Saturday, and to open that conversation, we actually explored names. And an interesting thing that happened was one of the dads there said that he has a nickname that he absolutely hates, right? That comes from soccer. And then we had to explore that a little bit. But what is it about this nickname that you don't like, right? And when you put the nickname together with his name, his surname, and with that nickname in there, and it gave him such a beautiful sentence. And to look at that sentence and think about his life, it's like, wait a minute, but this is actually what my life has been, so I wanted to bring that, yeah, just for anyone who's watching. I don't know if you've explored it for yourself.
I've also
Maybe you
heard
want to
that
say something. Yeah.
I have a nickname that I also hate, but for some odd reason, it speaks to my character as well, right?
Aha.
When I grew up, they called me Bobo. They called me Bobo for the longest time. And then I didn't get it. Why they call me Bobo? Because they're like, that is for like clowns and stuff. But
Sure.
also throughout my life, I've been someone who loves jokes, you know? And I find some hilarious things in people's characters and also making fun of other people there and there.
Sure.
And then he speaks to that, like they kind of like saw me as this joker, you know. And then I looked back to it and said, even though I didn't like it. And then as time went by, it kind of like modified from being Bobo to Boga. And then now people
Sure.
kind of started calling me Boga as well. But that one didn't have a significance in any case. It just became a variant of the nickname. But it also shows that sometimes those nicknames, when people give you those names, they can see something, you know, and then you'll end up falling up to that as well. So I wonder with people who have names that are totally horrible. I know there are people who who have different names. Do they live up to that? Do they? Because if you're named Tsotsi, do you end up being a Tsotsi there, or what happens to you? You know.
Sure.
But I know
Sure.
that there are some names that are not really that good, and then you find that the person is also doing the same. Eh?
Because and there's sure there's that side, and then there's also renaming. When a sort of, and when you rename, you in a way you also reclaim your identity, right? That I don't want to be that. I give my name or myself this name. We see it, and it's interesting that I'm talking to you now, and we're gonna refer to hip hop again. But that's why an artist or anyone has an alias, right? Because that alias or that other name is more of who they personally want to put their character into. So it's just a wonderful a way to just explore names. I wonder if anyone listening or watching this, you've thought about your name and what that means for you, right? And maybe you might just find that it's a name you might want to change and call yourself by a different name, or maybe there's a name that you don't quite appreciate, but then if you actually go into that name and link it with the other names that you have, it might give you a different angle, a different perspective on that. Um, So then the I think the final part that I want to now speak to is, writing, Delile, is something that we are told to do. We are taught to write from a very young age, right? We are taught,
Yeah.
maybe some people at home, but I would argue that if you go to school, chances are that is some of the first things you are taught is writing. I did hear something that, writing is somewhat connected to the brain in some weird way, right? Because if I'm typing something on my phone, it doesn't have the same effect as if I'm writing it on a piece of
On the
paper. You know what I mean? Just that connection, whatever, hand, head, or mind, hand, whatever that connection is, it just brings something magical. So I wonder if you have anything you want to leave anyone watching this with, in terms of encouraging them to just write and be free. We live in a time now where there's so much restriction on what you can say, how to see yourself. You must use positive language. You can't be negative. And as I've known, it is being negative has its benefits as well. But
yeah.
for me, it's about that honest expression. So how important do you think honest expression is, and how would you encourage someone to just, man, take a pen and just put it down, or whatever that is, without judging it? Yeah.
True, true. So it's quite a journey type of thing if you think about it. The writing,
Yeah.
because not everyone is keen to do that, right?
Mm,
Especially in the digital age that we're living in now. Even when you are saying right, and then people are on their devices, that's what they think of, and all of the time, and then it damages the brain. By the way,
sure.
always trying to use the digital space for everything,
Mm,
whereas using your pen and paper or your scrapbook, whatever the case may be, even the artists, you know, they come up with the best things when they're using their canvas and all of that, instead of
mm,
just using the digital space all at once. Is that although you may not like or not keen into writing, just start small and try it, because there's nothing that you'll lose anyway. You know, you're losing
mm,
nothing by just writing about anything really. Because I remember this other time when I was in a session, just to digress, I'll come back to the topic. I was in a session with a psychologist, and they encouraged me to write what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking without without thinking about it. I don't know if that makes sense. To
yeah,
just write, and don't stop writing. Whatever that
yeah,
you feel or think at that point in time, just keep writing it. It doesn't matter what it means, or whether it makes sense, or whether the sentence is constructed well. You don't have to go back to it and fix it, right? Just keep
sure,
writing for like
sure.
5 minutes straight. So 5 minutes straight, I have to keep writing on the paper. Just keep writing, not the pen doesn't have to stop. There was a bunch of things that I was writing there that I didn't even know what it was about, right? And then the exercise was that after that, you look at your full 2 page that you've written within 5 minutes, and you circle any point, anywhere. You circle 5 words there out of out of what you've written,
Yeah.
and then you come up with something throughout those, like to say, so with these circled words, what do they really mean? What did I come up with
Mm,
from
mm,
the scribbles basically that I've been writing? Which is a fun exercise if you think about it.
wow,
Like, you don't have to
wow.
have anything constructive or negative to write about, but you can just write anything and then find something fun out of it, you know?
Yeah.
So you can start there. You can start by doing it as a fun activity, to say, let's just do an activity at home as a fun game. Let's just write anything and then pick up some words, figure out what they mean to us, you know?
Mm,
And then you can develop from there. If you start having that inclination of writing, you can then start phrasing things, constructing them in a structural way. Like when I do poetry, I know it comes to me, right? The inspiration comes, and maybe I'll be thinking about the dawn.
mm,
There's a poem I actually wrote not long ago, I think about 4 or 5 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. I was waking up early in the morning and I was just reflecting on the dawn. I was like, what do you really learn from this? You know?
mm,
And then I
mm,
was just unpacking how I'm looking at it at that point in time, and how we in this society now, we live in a world whereby we have high walls and all of these things, and we hardly get to see the dawn, you know, unless you live in the outskirts, and then when you wake up in the morning you can see the sunrise literally from start to finish.
Yeah.
But we have these walls that are even cutting off us seeing the dawn itself, right?
Mm,
So what is the lesson there? What have we done to our society, to our life being, that is cutting up things that we're supposed to see in nature, things that are supposed to bring us some
mm,
positive energy, you know?
yeah.
So we can do things like that. We can just write about almost anything. Just
Mm, mm,
yeah, just think about things that are happening in life, nature around us, God. If you wanna write about God, you know, and then keep the pen flowing on the paper, and you'll be
mm,
surprised that you might also figure out that you have the skill or you have the talent in the arts world. You know, you can even transfer that information to others as well. So you'll find
mm,
that writing is not just a skill, but it's something that we can learn, we can make fun of, we can make sure that it boosts our energy, but make
mm,
sure that it's on paper. Right, on paper, you it's that thing what you're talking about. There's some connection between the brain and the hand there somehow.
mm, mm.
That's different from autocorrect. when you yeah, now it's different from autocorrect, because even when you misspell something, it's fine. You can continue with it. You can figure out the words later. You can look at the dictionary and figure things out later. Whereas if you want to be perfect all the time, how many times have you wanted to write a message to someone,
Mm,
and then after you feel like you've completed it, you delete it altogether and you start afresh?
got
You
it.
know.
Mm,
So it's kind of like you are erasing a certain type of communication that you've had before for a different one. And then the same thing that we do with the digital world. We want things to be perfect. When you're on Instagram, you only show the positive side of things. You don't
sure.
show your negative side. Everything that you do, you want to be perfect, or you want it to come out perfect, so that people don't see all the hard work that went through that perfection that you had to you had to come through to it. You know.
Mm,
So those
mm,
are the things that you are forsaking, or for not necessarily forsaking, you kind of foregoing if you're not doing things in a natural way, the way
sure.
we were taught when we were young. Write on paper, draw if you have to draw, write
Mm,
your lyrics, whatever the case may be. They
mm.
stick to your head much more than they are when they are on a laptop or on a digital device. And it can also help you to also encourage others to do the same.
Man, I love that. I love how you brought it down to also just looking to like everyday things, right? You don't have to. I mean, searching within yourself is quite a challenge in itself. So maybe start with the things that you can see first, and that'll maybe ease you into then going into the deeper things, the unseen things, right? I love that, man. And as it's a wonderful thing that you also spoke to self editing, right? We spoke about how we are censored by different places. Even probably this conversation, there are some things that I'm probably sure will get a strike if we mention, you know. But there's that self editing. Sometimes I do it when I'm in conversation and I want to say something, but I'm like, hey, that might land a bit. Otherwise, let me reserve that, you know. Whereas on a piece of paper, you know, I can go there. And as you said, I can edit that later. So sometimes I might get to meet some parts of me that are very scary. You know, I might meet some parts of me that are quite negative in going into that exercise. So I find writing as well for me quite spiritual. You know, there's a depth in writing. It doesn't matter what you're writing about, but at some point, I feel like a certain part of you, internal part of you, starts speaking, and the hand now just moves according to whatever the heart or the head is advising it or encouraging it to do. um,
Yeah.
so again, I want to give you, man, big major props for putting this together. I think for anyone to put out a book and put their own personal feelings in there as opposed to writing stories about whatever. It's something brave, it's something courageous to do. A lot of the feedback that I've gotten is people are saying that you seem very normal. You seem and you sound very normal, right? So again, I said it I think countless times on the actual episode that whenever I spoke to you, I never once thought, hey, maybe Delile has some a mental health disorder or some mood disorder, whatever. So I'm thankful for the work that you're doing, and I'm grateful that you decided to join me as lengthy as I kept you waiting, but for paying it forward. You know, we never know who might get touched by this episode. We never know who might be sent on a journey to start writing by this episode. We never know who might start streaming on YouTube after seeing this episode. You know, all we're doing is paying forward those little, as they say, sparkles of hope, right? We
Yeah.
sending them out into the world, and hopefully, whoever catches them will then also pay it forward to someone else, or maybe keep it for themselves. Whatever you do, we just hope that it helps. So, like I said, I'm Carl Ferro Javier from Man Up Conversations. Raw Feelings by Delile Ndumo is available. You can reach out to Delile if you want the book. There is a link in the show notes to this. As I said, this is on all audio platforms, so you will not find this on our YouTube channel. But I'll make sure to add some descriptions into this video so that you can be able to find all the information to reach out to Delile, buy the book yourself, and also just man, maybe we'll put in some resources to help you get into that writing spirit, right? And there's a song that Delile also put out where he did a wonderful thing for his wife, and we'll include that if you maybe listen to the episode already. The song was not on there, but we've now re-uploaded, and at the very end of the episode, you'll get to hear the full song. I thought putting it at the beginning was gonna be a bit like, okay, are we doing a music show? What's going on? So stick with us, man. Stick till the end, and you'll hear the good juice. But my brother Delila, we've been rapping. I appreciate you so much. Anyone who's tuned in here, you will find us here now. This will officially be on YouTube. We wanted to do it on different platforms. So Saturdays, catch me on YouTube, 10 o'clock up until we'll say half 11. So 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. South African time. Catch us on here. We'll be doing a lot of episode recaps. We'll have some guests on here. You'll see Delila back here at some point, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I don't know if you want to add one last thing, Danilo, before we sign out of here.
No, one thing I would just say is that you know what, reading and writing is an amazing thing,
Mm.
and best of everything that you do, keep doing it to inspire others to do the same.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
man. And we sign out just like that, man. Peace and love. Catch you guys on
Thank
the
you.
flip side.
Sure. All right, enjoy.
Hey man, that was my brother Delil Dumo. I am Kaukelo Habiani, as I said. Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation. Be sure to check me out again next week, Saturday, 10 a.m. South African time up until 11:30 a.m. I'll be sure to post some updates or what's coming up. If you're also looking to hear some things, if you maybe haven't checked out some of the episodes that we've shared, please go on and check out Man Up Conversations. We have a lot more that we've done. We've spoken to different people from across the world, right? We've got a couple of people from the States. I am South African based, so we have a lot of people from South Africa, from Joburg, from Pretoria. We've got people from Cape Town on the podcast. So if you also want to be a guest, please shoot me a message, and let's connect and see what we can do. And I hope that this conversation that we just had here gave you something to think about. Like I said, I encourage you to go on all the audio platforms and check out Manned Up Conversations. You'll find all the other conversations that sometimes don't make it onto our YouTube, but you'll have access to all of that on the audio platform. Please subscribe, please like the channel, and stay tuned. I got a lot more coming your way. Peace and blessings. We out of here.